I'm Aryeh Schwartz,
And I'm Rachel Galligan.
and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. The Minnesota Lynx made some moves and shook up the WNBA. We got to dive in and talk about this, Rachel. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. Are you looking to get tickets for this current WNBA season? Thanks to our sponsor TickPick, you don't have to worry. The original no-fee ticketing site and official ticketing partner of the WNBA champion Chicago Sky. Use the link tickpick.com/Winsidr for all your upcoming ticket purchases for the WNBA, NFL, NBA, or any other event. That's tickpick.com/Winsidr. Rachel, May 12th, 2022. There's a lot of twos in that. Will go down in WNBA and Minnesota Lynx history, just as a wild. I mean, do we want to just like start with that day? Do we want to preface it? Because I feel like just the current state we're in, I've seen so many people. It's crept into the Winsidr Slack channels. I've seen people all over social media discuss the links are tanking, the links are tanking to get
Mm-hmm.
Paige or somebody else or blah blah blah. And like on the one hand, if the links secretly are doing that, Cheryl Reeve is a genius upon genius. And the only way I would ever accept that they were doing that is if Sylvia Fowles is lying about this being her last year, right? Like if Sylvia Fowles is lying about this being her last year, which is beyond ridiculous and crazy because she just wouldn't do that. And this is all just a ploy from the links, then fine. But realistically, I think to turn on the switch of the tank, which WNBA or sports fans in general love to do when it comes to teams that are struggling when you have high expectations for them or even low expectations. But realistically, I think if you are on the tank boat, you think this team is tanking, it's because of three moves, right? It's waiving Crystal Dangerfield, waiving Leja Clarendon, and waiving Renaya Davis right before the season started. And I feel like if in the grand scheme of things, you think a team is tanking because they waived those three players, I feel like you haven't been I shouldn't say you haven't been watching the W long enough because that's rude, but like those players aren't needle movers. Like, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like, yes, Crystal Dangerfield won Rookie of the Year 2 seasons ago, struggled last year. But at the end of like Leja Clarendon had a great season last year with the Minnesota Lynx, really turned them around from an 0-4 start. But like, and I'm not saying this to hate on anybody, but there's a reason Lay isn't on a team right now. There's a reason why the Lynx were able to get her last year because nobody else wanted her. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
they showed that they are a capable, productive starting point guard in this league throughout their career. Don't get me wrong. But it's about the fit and the way that the W is shifting. Their style of play just doesn't fit anymore. And maybe that's a little bit too absolute. But my point is more so that if though that's the reason for the tank, I feel like we need to work on what a tank is. I don't know.
Well, and I think what do all of these players that the Lynx have parted ways with in the last week and a half, whatever it has been, kind of have in common outside of Crystal Dangerfield? I think if you're tanking, then like you're not necessarily worried about what could be long term, or is someone not 100% health wise. Like there's question marks with Lay and the health status there. Odyssey Sims, question marks of whether it's health related or personally related, going through some things, not being fully prepared to participate this season. I think we all can agree when we watched Sims play those first couple games, it didn't look like she was in shape. And I think it was you that said she might have been doubled over a trash can at one point. Angel McCautry, again, health and being able to be serviceable for this team and provide them what they need. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't accept the tank narrative. I think that is anything furthest from the truth. I think you've got Minnesota that had a plan and had a vision for what this roster might look like. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out because you had a lot of situations where people were not at 100%, and with the cap situation with this team already, there's very little room for error. So being able to bring in people who can give you something out on the floor is kind of, I think, what we're seeing here. I mean, at the end of the day, we could go through all Angel McCautry, Odyssey Sims, Lasia Clarinet. I mean, we could talk about all of that. Crystal Dangerfield. I mean, all of them at 100% are great players in the league, but I think we can all probably see in one way, shape, or form, there's at least a gray area that is worth a question mark. And Cheryl Reeve has openly talked about that. I think she talked about it yesterday during her press conference during practice, was talking about, these were the cards we were dealt, and we're just trying to do what we can to put together a healthy roster that's able to go out there and compete. So if you're tanking, like, I don't think you're making the moves that they're making.
Well, while I agree with you, yeah, I mean, look, not to put anybody's opinions out there. I will say, like, there is the opinion, and I think it's a fair opinion. It's an opinion that whenever tanking gets brought up, our dear friend Miles Ehrlich always brings up, which is that's insulting to the players to say that these professionals are trying to play bad, and the rebuttal is always no, the players aren't tanking, right? Because you job security, your paycheck, your career, your life. Players aren't tanking. GMs, team presidents, those are the ones that tank and say we can't be too good this year, and so they put together the worst roster possible. Now, what I want to say with the
Well,
Minnesota Lynx,
I
yeah,
also refuse to believe that Reeve would do that in what is supposed to be
exactly,
Sil's last year. I
exactly,
refuse.
exactly, and honestly, like, I refuse to believe that Reeve would do that in general, because I just think you might, and maybe this is a naive look, but I think when you have a coach slash GM, someone who was a player, somebody who has been in that, like, you're too competitive. GMs can be a little bit less competitive, I feel like, when it comes to the actual games, right? A GM sets the table and then relies on the service of the players, the coaches, whatever, to produce what they feel they can get out of that roster. So I feel like GMs, it's one thing. When you're a coach GM, it gets a lot harder. Um,
Well, and also we have to take into consideration the lottery odds here as well, right?
yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
the
it's not
WNBA
like
is an anti-tank league.
right. It's not like the Lynx decide they're going to be horrendous. They get 12th place. Oh, they automatically get the first round pick. Like, let's not forget the lottery odds here. Go back. Like, there's a process there. It's not that simple, and I think people
Well,
forget that
and
sometimes.
the other thing is, like, more importantly, like, let's look at this roster. I understand it's an 0-3 start. They're about to play the red hot Chicago Sky, defending champions, um later on Saturday on the 13th. Sorry, on the 14th. Um but you look at this roster, they're missing Dantas as she comes back from an injury. I know we go back and forth on this. Dantas had an amazing bubble season, comes out really rough start to the season last year, but really found her footing in the second half of the season, really started to catch strides. And the team that got themselves into third place into the playoffs was the team that Dantas helped get them there. And then she gets injured, and that's a huge blow to the team. So she's not back. She is the number one, besides Sill. She's the one who can go to the five if they need to rest Sill. She's the one who is the 3-point threat, who is a good defender on this team for the bigs to help Sill out. Then you lose Fee, who's pregnant. Is she coming back this season? I know she wants to, but there's certain things that are out of her control in
Right.
this situation. Then you have Angel, who, if you speak to people who were at Team USA camps at the Final Four in Minnesota, she did not look ready to play. So that's another injury. So right there, we're talking about what Dantas, Fee, and that doesn't even include McBride, who's still overseas. On Sunday the 15th, her team Fenerbahce will be playing in game 3 of the best of 5. They're up 2-0. Assumedly, if they can pull off the sweep, she would be home sooner than later, which is a good sign for this team. I've heard people talk about Aerial Powers doesn't look 100%, wearing a sleeve on her leg. And then you talk about Lay. So like we're talking about like four players here on who are supposed to be starters, right? Or
Yeah.
Angel maybe isn't a starter, maybe she's coming off the bench. You're talking about four players in your 7 player rotation that aren't playing or aren't 100% to play. Obviously this team is going to struggle. We've talked about every episode we mentioned them, they were going to struggle. Um but I think the difference is it's just been at times they looked just like the Indiana Fever of 2 years ago, like the New York Liberty of 2 years ago, or like the Indiana, or, sorry, not Indiana, the Atlanta Dream of the past few years. But let's talk about the moves they made and why they got so much headlines, so much attention. On the 12th, they waive Renai Davis, player they drafted a draft ago who was injured all last season, cut right before the season started. She was on hardship. Yvonne Turner is released from hardship. Nina Milik, hardship release. Also, Angel McCautry in a contract amendment, as they call it, a divorce. She was waived, and Odyssey Sims was waived. So you're sitting there as a Minnesota Lynx fan. You're going, okay, we don't have Lay. And all last year, we were told by Cheryl Reeve that Rachel Banham is not a starting point guard. She's a 2 guard. She cannot orchestrate an offense. So you're literally sitting here. You don't have Lay. You don't have Sims. What is going on? Um, I forget if when this all this news came out, whatever. Mariah Jefferson signs a rest of season contract. Avina Westbrook signs a rest of season contract. A player who I'm hyped to see in Minnesota in Westbrook because 2 drafts ago when she was playing with the idea of entering the draft, she decided to go back to college, but I thought that she would be a great fit for Minnesota. We all know Reeve loves her UConn people. Um, on top of that, they also add back Yvonne Turner. They also add back who else? Millet came back.
Hannah Shervin.
Um,
Hannah Shervin.
yep, and Hannah Shervin came back. All of them on rest of season. Um, Shervin, Turner, and Milik were all on hardships, and this team looks like it's pretty much set. I mean, with the moves that they're made, they're going to be able to carry more players right now, which is nice. They're still waiting for Dantas to come back. They're still waiting for McBride to come back. Where's your head for this team? I mean, I think that I know Reeve in her mind and Minnesota's mind, the target doesn't change. You want to bring a championship to Minnesota for Sylvia Fowles last season. Is it all right? Realistically, you can't sit here and go, yeah, these moves put them back in contention. We have to see what we're going to see from Mo Jeff. Can she facilitate? Can she be a player that we saw, very early on in her career that we haven't seen for a while? I mean, I guess that's where my question is.
I mean, I not even in the stratosphere being able to be in contention. I think at this point, if you're Minnesota, you're just trying to uh, weather the storm that has been the last week and a half, and put together, a competitive roster that can finish middle of the pack at best, in my opinion. That's where I think it's going to end up if I had to guess. But, I mean, it's just been so tough these first few games, and a test tonight against Chicago. We'll get our first look at this team and how Mariah Jefferson and Avina Westbrook and some of these people, step in. I mean, I'll tell you right now, you know, Yvonne Turner, Aerial Powers, they can't go like 2 for 19. They've got to contribute more. You've got to get more from your guard play across the board. I think, when we hit that point where you do have Dantas back and McBride is back over here, like those are going to be phenomenal shots in the arm. And I hope that they, can jump in pretty seamlessly. But I mean, at this point, it's just been a really tough go. And, you kind of have to take it one day at a time and see how this roster's continuing to kind of gel together and hopefully remain healthy and stay healthy and get healthy and find some consistency because it's been way too chaotic,
The question I have,
unfortunately. And that wasn't planned. It's just kind of the situation, and you can see Reeve and the team dealing with it. And I think at the end of the day, you have an opportunity here to still come out smelling like roses because there's so many talented players, that can come in and contribute. Healthy players who can come in and contribute to your team, that aren't signed, that are still available. And, it's just going to take some time to find that consistency.
Yeah, I mean, well, the one thing I do want to say is like this idea that and I'm gonna try and speak as Minnesota nice as I can. This idea that like Minnesota's dealing with the cards they dealt is true, but also a PR spin narrative. Like, let's be realistic. You kept Banham.
Well,
The Achanwa contract screws them over, and yes, I get
sure.
those cards they were dealt, but they also put themselves in this situation. Like, let's not forget 2 years ago when the new CBA was signed, 3 years ago, whatever. Cheryl Reeve was the one who was sitting there, in not laughing physically, but like laughing to the extent to other GMs throwing these contracts around, not understanding that a few years down the road you're going to be tied to a pole, and that's
Well, and then it comes back to like, Angel McCautry. That was your big free agency move, and like I'm curious to know how that went, how those discussions went, how everyone felt her progression was going and what that looked like, right? Because it's kind of like, wow, that really sucks. I mean, that really didn't pan out just across the board. The whole situation
yeah.
sucks.
Well, the other funny thing is like Angel's statement made it seem like it was very health related, the reason things weren't working out.
True.
Uh, but literally the day before she was cut, Reeve made a comment that was like, "It's not health related. The reason she only played 7 minutes, or whatever the quote was, made it seem so." There's definitely some whatever. I mean, I think if you're this team, you got to just focus moving forward. The positives are Sylvia Fowles is still playing amazing. Jessica Shepard has been playing really, really good. So
It's
that
been a
shows
really
that
good
they
bright
actually,
spot. Yeah.
right, they actually have depth when Dantas comes back. Um,
Yep.
and then you add McBride's going to give a shot in the arm. Aerial Powers is trying to do too much. The question, honestly, and like, here's the thing: it's not that hard. If you're Mojef coming in, like, okay, career field goal percentage 44, 39 from three. Obviously, it's been pretty much in flux, and a couple of those years are pretty much padded by shooting 2 for 6 from three in 2020 or whatever it was. She only played 9 games that season. So some of these numbers are skewed because of the injuries that she's faced. But I mean,
Mhm.
realistically, if we know the scout on her, obviously there's more questions about her health and her ability to lead this team as a point guard joining 3 games in. But she can shoot the three. She is not a bad passer, right? Like she can facilitate the ball around. She
I mean,
could
here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, Mojef can play. It's just I think it's just been so.
She can play, but can she play? I guess is like as ridiculous as that sounds, right,
Well,
Rachel?
it's like an opportunity. I'm excited because like this is an opportunity for like a really just good comeback story, right? A fresh start, a brand new opportunity. Like knock on wood, she's healthy and we can see her at full strength because I mean, really, what was it? I mean, 2021. She was playing 17 minutes a game. Like, okay, but like last year, um, oh, so 2021 she played 17 minutes a game. Back in 2020, I think she only played 9 games. 2018
Mhm.
only played 16. So there hasn't been a lot of just opportunity and consistency. So I think from my standpoint, again, I've always enjoyed Mariah Jefferson. And we look 2016, her rookie year, averaged 14 points a game, played 30 minutes a game that following year. I mean, she's put up some numbers. It's just been a really inconsistent health related last 3 years from her time in Las Vegas and Dallas. So I mean, fresh opportunity, and again, this is a chance for her to kind of seize it. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
need, and this is who Reeve picked, and as a competitor, like these are the moments that you cherish and you thrive with, and I hope she can go in there and be the player that we've all seen her be at times.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think of it if you want to take the positive spin, you're going to say, "Okay, look, for the price they paid for being in this situation, there wasn't many better options out there, right? Like who are you, like Mojef, if we can get the positive, the healthy, the whatever, that's a great signing. That's a steal in
Hmm.
this situation, right?
Yeah, definitely.
The question is, which are we going to get? Are we going to get the inconsistent, unhealthy Mojef of the past 4 or 5 years?
Right.
For
We'll
basically,
see.
you
That's
know,
what I'm saying. There's so much to still be seen. We're still in the midst of this just kind of roller coaster, not even roller coaster, just really bizarre start of the season with Minnesota. And things are a little bit more set, but now what does it look like is to be determined.
Yeah, no, totally. And it will not get easier. Excuse me.
No, no.
Minnesota Lynx, they play Chicago on the 14th. On the 17th, they play the LA Sparks. On the 19th, they play the Aces. The one positive, I will say, is, since their last game, they have had some time off. They've had some time to breathe, some time to think, some time to react,
Yeah,
hopefully get more in tune. Only issue is the person who's going to be orchestrating your offense hasn't been there for it. Um,
yeah,
so it'll be interesting to see these next three games, what we see
right.
from Mojef. Any final thoughts before we log off for today?
No, enjoy the games today, everyone.
Have a good one.